Good, happy Tuesday morning, March 5th, 2019. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. Let's begin. First up, man arrested in Deerfield with car stolen in Meredith home invasion. Let's take a listen to this video from WMUR News 9.
Out the door when it matters most. For more than a decade, he's been right there, everywhere. And when American jobs are on the line, he leads the charge. ABC's World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast, and we thank you.
Terrifying moments for a couple over the weekend.
Just before 11 p.m., we had a 911 call with a wife whispering in the background that somebody had just broken into their house.
Police arrived within just moments, but that suspect was already gone, taking off in the couple's Toyota SUV. Less than 24 hours later, Epsom police spotted the vehicle on Route 4. A pursuit started, but police called it off. Deerfield police then noticed that same SUV on Route 107. Another pursuit began with the suspect driving down a snowmobile trail off Swamp Road in Deerfield. Authorities say the suspect ditched the Toyota and took off into the woods, but a police dog found him. Deerfield police identified the driver of the stolen vehicle as 27-year-old Damian Body. He faces a list of charges in that town, including resisting arrest, a felony charge of receiving stolen property, reckless conduct, reckless operation, and other traffic offenses. Meredith police say no charges have been filed in connection to the home invasion, but say Body is known to their department and has a Meredith address. Police have not been able to identify a motive behind the home invasion.
Our officers that night followed tracks through the woods for about an hour trying to figure out where the person had come from. So it appears to us that this was the first house that the person came to.
While police say the couple in the home invasion is shaken up, they were not physically hurt. Meantime, Body was taken to the Merrimack County Jail. In Meredith, I'm Charisse LeClaire, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Hudson man charged after striking house with pickup truck. A driver is facing a DWI charge after striking a Hudson home with his pickup truck Monday. Just before 6 p.m., Hudson police and firefighters responded to 1 River Avenue for a report of a motor vehicle collision into a residence. First responders located a 2003 Chevrolet pickup crashed into the corner of the house. The driver, Gregory Black, 64 of Hudson, appeared to have minor injuries and was transported to Southern New Hampshire Medical Center in Nashua. While at the hospital, Black was placed under arrest for suspicion of driving while intoxicated and released on bail. The truck was extensively damaged and there was some exterior damage in the front of the house. Hudson building inspector responded and found no structural damage. There was no injuries reported inside the house. This crash remains under investigation. Pembroke woman recovering from snowmobile accident. Let's take a listen to this video from WMUR News 9.
The Pembroke woman is recovering tonight after a snowmobile accident. Fish and Game officers say that Fiona McCulloch went over a small hill at a low speed when she rode her snowmobile on Plazawa Hill Road, pinning her and her daughter. McCulloch called her husband, who was able to lift the machine off of the two riders. She was taken to the hospital with a serious injury. The daughter was not hurt.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Manchester shooting victim leaves behind 18-month-old son and boyfriend. Let's take a listen to this video from WMUR News 9, Mike Cronin.
Saturday night, Jeremy Winslow says he and his girlfriend, 34-year-old Tanya Hall, went out on a date to celebrate a deal she recently closed in her sales job.
She had drive. She had personality, charisma. She was the most gorgeous person I've ever seen in my life.
Winslow says they ended up at Manch Vegas Bar and Grill.
We cleared the dance floor away because no one wanted to run into us.
He says he ran into someone who knows his family member and was eventually followed out by that person and the group he was with.
They were following us to my Jeep, and I was already thinking what they were going to do.
He drove off, and that's when he says he heard the pop.
As soon as the window popped, she goes, "Babe, they got me." And she reached both of her arms around my one arm, and she laid her head down.
Winslow says he was trying to get to the police station. He's haunted by what happened next.
I remember getting scared instantly, and I yelled, "Babe," pretty loud. I yelled it again, and I said, "Babe," and that's when I grabbed her to shake her, to wake her up. And I let go of her out of shock, and I just yelled again, "Babe." She fell down between her legs. I called 911 instantly, and I told them that my girlfriend was dead in my passenger seat.
Today, the Attorney General's office announced the arrest of 34-year-old Justin Mora. He'll be arraigned tomorrow on a charge of second-degree murder.
Tanya really believed that she could do anything in the world, and she proved it every day.
The Attorney General's office says the circumstances surrounding Hall's death remain under investigation as they continue to interview witnesses. Reporting live in Manchester, Mike Cronin, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Department of Environmental Services begins public hearing on proposed drinking water standards. Let's take a listen to this video from WMUR News 9, Gene Mackin.
You're the lifeguards. We're drowning in this toxic chemical.
The question, how much contamination should be allowed in New Hampshire's drinking water, a major concern since chemicals have been detected near factories and military bases. The DES proposes 38 parts per trillion for PFOA, 70 parts per trillion for PFOS. Many residents say lower that level.
You're playing a numbers game with people's lives. How many residents of Merrimack have to get sick and or die?
What is the value of a human life? It may not be much to a multi-billion-dollar industrial polluter, but it is everything to the parent of a child with cancer.
Public input is invited before the DES sets a state standard, saying the federal government won't have enforceable standards this year. The DES says in this area, Saint-Gobain Performance Plastics is footing the bill to connect affected homes to public water.
The
private wells that are very close to St. Gobain and were measured above our current state standards, those houses have been connected to public water or are being connected to public water.
The DES says more homes in Merrimack, Litchfield, and Bedford will be connected in the spring. St. Gobain must have a treatment plan for emissions by the end of this month, and soon all water statewide will undergo quality testing. 2 more public hearings are ahead tomorrow afternoon at the DES in Concord and next week at Pease Tradeport, another area of big concern. In Merrimack, Jean Mackin, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Dow features point to a flat open as investors monitor U.S.-China trade developments. U.S. stocks were marginally higher Tuesday morning, with market players still focused on U.S.-China trade developments. Ex-Trump White House lawyer calls Mueller hero, says probe is no witch hunt. Let's take a listen to this video from ABC News.
At Farmers, we've seen almost everything, so we know how to cover almost anything, even rooftop parking. Strange forces at work? Only if you're referring to gravity. And we covered it. Talk to farmers. We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Hey everybody, I'm Devin Dwyer, live at ABC News headquarters in New York. Good Wednesday afternoon to you. I'm here with an ABC News exclusive as Special Counsel Robert Mueller closes in on the president. Lists of questions, threats of subpoenas. ABC News has done an exclusive interview with White House lawyer Ty Cobb, and I want to bring in our crack team of White House correspondent Jonathan Karl, political director Rick Klein, the Powerhouse Politics podcast crew. Say that 3 times fast. You guys just talked to Ty Cobb. Give us the headlines.
Well, first of all, it's an extremely unusual interview. Ty Cobb is the White House lawyer who deals with the special counsel. As such, you hardly ever see him giving on-the-record interviews. So we had a chance. We spent about, Devin, 20-plus minutes speaking to him, a wide-ranging conversation about all of the pressing issues facing the White House as it negotiates with the special counsel's office. To me, one of the real headlines here is that is the question of whether or not the president will sit down for an interview with Robert Mueller. And despite the tone of the tweets coming from the president, despite the reports of serious tension between the president's legal team and the special counsel's office, he said an interview with the president and Robert Mueller is still very much on the table.
And Devin, I'd add to that the very time that this interview is going on, President Trump is tweeting about Rod Rosenstein and suggesting that Mueller is biased. We read one of the tweets on air in this interview as it's going on, and the tone you get from Ty Cobb entirely different than you get from the president. It seems like Ty Cobb, at least that part of the legal team, is still working toward an accommodation with Mueller.
I mean, he was speaking glowingly about Rosenstein and about Robert Mueller.
Same time that President Trump's talking about, maybe having to use some presidential powers to end this thing.
And guys, I want to ask you about that interview.
Okay, and if you want to watch this full video, we will have a link for you on the Riley King Network Facebook page. And that does it for the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great rest of your Tuesday, and I'll see you back here later on today for another newscast. And I have a news report coming up in a little bit. Goodbye, everyone.